Hey guys, what is up? My name is David. Thank you for checking out this video. And if you're watching this, you're probably somebody who's putting a lot of time into your podcast. Whether that be recording episodes, finding new guests, promoting it through your social media, your email list, your website, or otherwise. And you're somebody who's proud of your podcast and you want to find new listeners for your show. You are in the right place because in this video, I am going to be sharing with you the tips that I've used to create Facebook ad campaigns for myself and my clients to promote a podcast online. This is going to be a tutorial to show you how to set it up in the back end of your Facebook Ads Manager, the type of video and copy that I suggest using, and where to actually send your traffic. Because when you have a podcast like yours, you're probably listed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Maybe you even have a YouTube playlist set up for your podcast that you want to make sure people have access to. I'm going to be showing you the exact steps that I used to drive traffic to all of those platforms and actually letting people choose which one they want to listen on. So sit tight and relax because we're going to be diving into my ads manager back below me, and I'm going to be showing you a walkthrough of exactly how I set up my campaigns. Hey guys, what's up? So the first thing that I want to do to help you create your first podcast Facebook ad campaign is just dig into the back end of the ads manager and show you a little bit about the steps taken to actually set up this campaign. So the first thing that you want to do when you get to the back end of your ads manager, and right now I'm using one of my sample accounts here so that I can walk through it actually with you guys, is to go and create the campaign. And for the one that I typically recommend doing, and the one that I'm going to suggest to you in this, is to actually set this up as a conversions campaign. And we'll go into a little bit about why I want to do that in a little bit here. So when you come down to the campaign, go ahead and name it podcast promotion, or whatever you want to name it. Set a campaign budget optimization. And the reason we're going to do this is because we might be testing a couple of different videos or images, copy, audiences, things like that. So we want to allow Facebook to distribute that budget their way. So we'll set this at $10 a day. I recommend for this podcast promotion, if this is something new for you, I definitely recommend setting it somewhat lower to figure out what you actually start getting listeners for, the cost per listener on your podcast page, and looking at your results, optimizing them, and then scaling it up from there. So we'll set this right here at $10 a day. We'll keep the bid strategy at lowest cost. And again, we have this set as conversions. And we'll click and we'll get that started. So when you get here, from here, there's what's called a conversion. And for right now, we're just going to leave this blank. I'll come back to this, showing you how to actually set that conversion. But scrolling down here, the dynamic creative will keep off. The offer will keep off. And when we come down to the audience, there's a couple of different things that you can do here that I would suggest. So the first one would be make sure you're targeting some of your warm traffic should you already have some. So website visitors that you have to any page on your website or potentially to your blog or somewhere specific, your email list, people who are on your email list that you want to target them with this podcast Facebook ad, potentially want to target your Instagram or Facebook engagement, or maybe test a lookalike audience of one of those. I definitely suggest using, for some of your audiences, warmer audiences that you have for yourself to get them onto your podcast. So that's something that I definitely recommend doing from this area here, where you can set up into custom audiences. When it comes to your location, this is going to be based on who your customer is and where they're living and where you want to target. And the same thing for the age and gender. So for my specific ad, I'm going to leave this as 18 to 65 and all. But for you, if you're a women's brand or you're a men's brand, or maybe you're targeting a specific age group, you'll want to make sure you change that up as necessary. But potentially, you want to reach a brand new audience with your podcast, which is a great way to use Facebook ads for. So potentially, if you want to use some of your own targeting, you can use this detailed targeting strategy here. So for example, if you have a podcast about golf, you might target Tiger Woods, and you might kind of go into the rabbit hole of different popular golfers here that you might want to go after, or niche golfers that might get you even more serious of an audience. Whatever your podcast is about, I guarantee that there are some audiences in Facebook that will qualify your listeners. So coming down here, you can set up this audience for yourself, all good to go for your podcast listeners. And then when we get down here to the placements, I always recommend going to the edit placements. And this is where you can really get honed in on where your podcaster is actually listening to the episode. So if we go here to the placements, there's a couple of different things that you can test. So primarily, we want to take this off of anything we want to make sure that this is something that's going to be coming up and that people are actually visualizing it. So typically when you start this, you want to come over here and remove desktop from this entirely. And then you want to scroll down here to specific mobile devices and operating systems. And potentially you can choose iOS devices only, Android devices only, or all mobile devices. For this ad today that I'm going to be showing you how to use, we're going to leave this as all mobile devices because I'm going to show you how we're going to target which platform they want to listen to your podcast on. And because we live in a world where there's iHeartRadio, there's Spotify, there's Apple Podcasts, there's Stitcher, there's so many different places that people can listen to podcasts. We want to give them an option of all of those from the ad rather than targeting iOS devices only with, let's say, for example, only Apple Podcast when that person might actually be listening on a platform like Spotify or something else. We want to make sure they have the option to choose any of those. However, if you want to try some split tests between iOS devices only and Android devices, that's something that you can do. But for this example, we're going to go with all mobile devices. So, and then also up here on this actual placement section, I'm going to leave it as all of these just because I want to put it out into as many people as possible. But you can choose, for example, to only show it in feeds or potentially want to remove stories or something like that. But for this example, I'm going to put it in front of everybody and then we'll optimize it later once we start getting results back. So scrolling down here, you always want to make sure you set a start and end date, depending on how this campaign works, and just as a safeguard for yourself. We'll keep this optimization for ad delivery at conversions. The conversion window, 7 days click or 1 day view is completely fine, and we'll keep going forward here. Okay, so going on to this next part of this lesson on advertising your podcast using Facebook ads, I want to talk a little bit about two things. The first one being where are we actually going to be sending this traffic? The second one being where does the actual Facebook conversion come into play? So what I recommend doing, and this is something that I've been testing across a lot of clients that's been working out really well, is creating an actual landing page for your podcast designed for mobile users who are coming from your Facebook ad. So this might be on davidnips.com/Facebook ads podcast or something like that, where this page is designed for this Facebook ad. And where the conversion comes into play is because we want to put the Facebook pixel on your website. It should already be there, but if it's not yet, you want to make sure you put the Facebook pixel on your website. And then you want to set up a custom conversion for anybody who clicks any of these links. So for example, this one might say listen on Spotify, listen on Apple Podcasts, listen on Stitcher, listen on iHeartRadio, listen on, etc. You can add all of the players that your podcast is on to this page, and you can actually send traffic directly to it. So what's going to happen is, like I mentioned earlier, no matter what phone they're coming from and what podcast platform they have, they'll be able to find it on your library here. And you want to set up a conversion for new podcast listener or new podcast conversion, whatever you want to do, you want to set one on all of these. So when we set up this conversion ad campaign, it will tell you for every dollar you spend, how many actually clicks to these buttons that you actually get. So the way that I recommend, this is a little SketchUp that I did in Canva here, just to show you what I would recommend for your player. There's two ways that I've seen this done. Recently is you can use your website builder on WordPress or Wix or Squarespace to actually build a page that looks just like this. You want to make sure you don't have a menu or a header at the top and you don't have a footer because you don't want people to get distracted between going to your podcast. You want to have them land on a page that looks just like this, very simple, the name of the podcast at the top and then all of the buttons, but there's nothing that can actually distract them from that. The second way that I've seen this done is you can actually build something in a website called Linktree. It's linktr.ee, something like that. If you Google search Linktree, you'll see that come up. But that's another way that people use it a lot of times for their Instagram bios, where they'll have a lot of buttons. You can build a very similarly looking page to this with that platform and then just drive traffic here. So when you actually get back to this page and you're actually designing your ad, this link might be, like I mentioned, davidnips.com/podcast or whatever the link is. This is what's going to come down here into this website URL right here. So while we're on this page, I want to talk a little bit about the copy and the video that you want to use for this ad. So with podcast ads, I really suggest trying a whole bunch of different things. And one of the websites that's made it very easy to create podcast videos is a website called Wave. And what this does is allows you to create podcast teasers. So taking a photo and some text that you might want to design in Canva and then bring over here, you can create a little videos like you're seeing on my screen here that can promote your podcast. So let's take a look at this one right here. So you can see on this website, it has this little moving bar down here. You can have this little sound wave at the top here that makes it a little bit more dynamic, and you can have the episode that you're promoting in the middle. It creates a little bit of a teaser for you so that if, say, you give them 30 or 45 seconds of the podcast episode that you're promoting, you can give them that 30, 45 seconds to get them hooked. And then they're going to be so interested in hearing the rest of the episode that they'll actually click and go onto the player. So you definitely want to use something like this, but you can also just create regular videos with your phone where you might record something that's just inviting people to come. If you're targeting a warm traffic that knows who you are, they know your brand, you might just want to make a video that just says, hey guys, I have a podcast, a great new episode, I want you to come check it out, and make something very similar to that. You can also just test regular pictures to drive traffic to your podcast, but I definitely recommend trying this website called Wave. I believe it's $10 a month. It's very cheap, but you can create some really high captivating, high converting Facebook ad videos. So when it comes to actually putting this ad together, you want to go ahead and add that video, photo, whatever you created from that here. And then in the text, you want the first 2 lines to be all about what the episode is. You don't want to focus on what your podcast is about. You want to focus on the episode that's going to captivate your listener. So make sure at least those first 2 lines and the top part is going to get them hooked in with that audio. And just as a quick side note, in addition to that text, you also want to make sure you have captions on here. So when you add your video, there's an option to auto-generate captions in Facebook that will play for people whose phones are muted. And you can go in there, use the auto-generated captions, and then make edits to it to make sure that it actually is reading correctly. So for that text, you want to make sure it's going to hook them into the episode, talking about their pain points, getting them interested, and then also giving them information that this is going to take them to your podcast. Same thing with the headline. I oftentimes suggest something like putting in brackets podcast, or something like listen, something to let them know that this is not just a short video, but you're actually trying to take them to your podcast. And then the headline would be something that's related to the episode that you're promoting. So when you come down here after you add your website URL, for the call to action, I always suggest using the listen and now button. That's going to let people know that they're going to be clicking this button, not just to learn more, but to actually listen to this podcast. It's a great way to make sure you're increasing your conversions there. And then that's pretty much it. You now have a podcast advertisement on Facebook that is going to convert well for you. And I'm really excited about what this could be for you guys. And there you have it. That is my steps for creating a really high converting podcast ad. I always suggest testing different audiences, different photos, different videos, different copy against this campaign to see what's going to work best for your listeners. But I definitely know that using a setup like this, having that specific web page is going to really give your listeners a seamless process for getting to your podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you and gave you the steps and tools that you need to create your first Facebook ads campaign for your podcast. If you have any questions at all about how to actually execute on this, please go ahead and comment below or send me an email. Any way that you want to get in contact with me, I'd be happy to help you walk through that. Or if you're somebody who's looking for just somebody to do it for you, somebody to help out, I have a digital marketing agency that will be happy to talk with you more about that. So check out some of those links down below for more information there. And again, please go ahead and smash that subscribe button if you're interested in more digital marketing content just like this. And I hope to see you guys on the next video.